Welcome to Wholesale Hotline, where we cover everything to do with wholesale real estate. I'm Jamil Damji.
I'm Brent Daniels.
And I am Pace Morby.
And together we cover the most important parts of wholesale real estate.
Lead generation.
Conversion of sellers into contracts.
And dispositions. Guys, remember when you're watching this show, do us a favor and squad up in the comments.
Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the YouTube channels and in the Facebook group Wholesale Hotline.
Most important, we want to know we're doing a great job for you and helping you build your business. So go give us a review on iTunes and or Spotify.
So squad up and enjoy the show!
Welcome to Wholesale Hotline number 178. I'm your host, Brent Daniels, Mr. TTP, Mr. Talk to People. And let me ask you this, have you? Have you talked to anybody today? Have you talked to a property owner that is going through something? You know what I mean? Somebody that's got a personal problem with their properties? Because we're wholesaling, baby. All wholesaling is matching up people that have personal problems with their properties with people that want to buy problem properties for a profit. Find me a sentence that has more P's in it than that, and I'll give you $100. But no, we're excited. We are so excited today on Wholesale Hotline. We have for the first time, if you guys thought that and have followed Pace Morby for a while, and you understand that he buys a lot of properties, you're probably wondering what happens. We see it on Instagram. We see him signing the closing documents for these properties on a daily basis. We see him posting about it on his YouTube channel and talking about it on the Wholesale Hotline podcast. But what happens once a property is in a portfolio? And how could he possibly stay organized with so many properties, over 1,000 doors? How does he stay organized? Well, there's only one way, and she's sitting right next to me, and that's Molly Tennant. Molly, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
This is going to be really exciting because, listen, this is behind the scenes here, guys. All right, let's give a hi, Molly, for being on here for the very first time. This is really, really, really exciting because here's what happens, right, Molly? We start out and we see something that we want to model. We see that somebody's out there and they're doing really cool things and they're being a real estate entrepreneur. And we go, okay, well, I have a full-time job. I have some responsibilities. I've never done a deal before. So what do I do? Well, first, you go out there and you start taking some action. You start picking a model that you want to follow. You find a tribe of people that you really gel with that are going to support you in this. And then you get your first deal done, right? You get a proof of concept. And that's absolutely incredible. And then you get real consistent with it. You close deals on a regular basis, and then you replace your income. So now you're a full-time real estate entrepreneur and you're like, this is incredible. And then you start firing yourself from certain roles in the business because you want to be an entrepreneur. You want to be a visionary. You want to go out there and conquer new things and build a really solid business, right? And then you start buying rental properties. And then you realize how big of a pain in the ass rental properties are. Okay. Then you realize how big, how much all the different things that come along with building a rental portfolio, of owning real estate, all the little nuances, all the little details, all the little bills, all the little things that pop up just by owning real estate.
Yeah.
And we need somebody to make sure that those things get taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's your role in Pace's business.
Mean, I've had a compounded role is what I would say.
Yes.
So my role has evolved and grown over the years that I've been here with him. But the transaction coordination part of it is a whole beast in and of itself. But then the operations aspect of it is a whole nother half of it, right? So I didn't know I would be here. I didn't even know. Do you even know how Pace and I met?
I do know.
Yeah. That's a crazy story. Very random, right? I don't know.
So tell it.
Okay. I was like, I don't know. Should I tell this story again?
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of you, I see a lot of you who know who I am. Hi, everybody. But guys, I was newly out of a previous mentorship. My mentor had passed away. That's a long story. I still love them, adore them. I was actually on a podcast with Isabel Guarino last week.
Awesome.
Adore her.
Yeah.
And adore their family. And so I was in a weird, funky place of like, the holidays are here and I don't have a job necessarily. My husband and I still owned some businesses, so we were doing fine. But like, I wasn't necessarily looking for a job, right? And what you'll find is that the more you network and the more you are in this industry of real estate with people, the more people you know. And so I had a lot of people reaching out to me like, hey, do you want to be my operations manager?
Love it.
Do you want to work for me?
Yeah.
And from there, it started like, it was almost like that energy was out there in the universe, you know? And I got a random phone call from a dude at 8:00 at night on a Sunday. Doesn't this sound like Pace?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I'm driving home from Vegas right now. My name's Pace Morby. I have a show on A&E, like all this stuff, right? He has all these things at sub 2. I have a mentorship. And I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
This is crazy. Who's this guy? He's like, I told somebody I'd pay them $10,000 if they found me an operations manager that was, you know, worth it, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and someone gave you my name? And he's like, yeah, someone gave me your name and your phone number. And so we met the very next day and the rest was history, obviously. But from there, it was like acquisitions to managing the portfolio to getting involved in his transactions to being very, very now involved in the mentorship and now a new mentorship, right? And so it's evolved exponentially over the years to the point where I don't even know what the next 10 years could potentially bring. Like I really feel like the sky is the limit, you know, which is probably what happens in your world and the energy that you and Pace and Jamil and these types of people have. It's like you guys just pull ideas from thin air and turn them into these crazy things that we're like, my mind has been blown. I mean, I literally am sitting in such a different position than I was a couple of years ago. And now I feel like I could do anything. I could get involved in anything. I could learn how to do anything. I was really intimidated by the creative industry because I came from the traditional real estate industry before. So coming here and figuring all of this out and
well, what's the difference?
The difference?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What's the difference between regular like deals and creative deals?
Well, have you ever,
like, from a transaction standpoint?
And I'm sure people in the comments.
And guys, we're just warming up. We're just warming up the crowd so that enough people get in here and put in enough questions that we can start answering those questions. So if you have any questions, make sure that you put them in the comments section. People are all over the place. I'm looking at StreamYard where we are streaming from, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different groups, 4 different Facebook groups, and 4 different YouTube channels that are all feeding into this. So make sure that you're posting your questions so that we can put it up, because you're not seeing everybody else's responses. You're not seeing everybody else's questions. So if you do have a question, make sure you put it in the comments section. We'll pop it up here and we'll be able to answer them today so that you don't have any challenges that are kind of unknown how to respond to them. So make sure, and especially any challenges about transaction coordination, operations, all those things, because I'm certainly not going to answer them. I'm not. No, because listen, conversations and offers, that's what this business comes down to, having conversations and making offers. But what happens when you've had so many conversations and made so many offers and get so many deals? How do you stay organized? How do you make sure that you can run this as a well-oiled machine? That's why Molly's here, and we're going to have a fantastic show with Molly answering those questions. So take advantage, guys. She's a very busy woman. She's got a lot on her plate. And so this is your chance to get like really, really, really top level. I made a comment before the show started that there's not a harder working woman in real estate than Molly right here. I'm telling you, she's absolutely incredible. And she can answer a lot of your questions. So don't be shy. Also, make sure that you're squatting up in the comments section. Make sure that you're letting everybody know where you live and where you're doing business so that you can find people that you can squat up with, because it goes way faster, 5 to 10 to 100 times faster to get to the success that you're looking for if you squat up with people that are already a few steps ahead of you. All right. So don't be shy. Make sure that you connect. Everybody in here is absolutely phenomenal. So we've got questions, we've got squatting up, and we've got celebrations. If you have closed a deal this in the last week or so, if you have talked to a property owner for the first time, if you went driving for dollars, if you went and pitched the idea of a creative deal, whatever it is, I don't care what it is. If you've moved forward in your real estate business, we want to hear about it, and we want to ring this victory bell right here to celebrate you. All right. So that's the point of this show. Make sure you put your questions in, squat up, and let's celebrate some successes. So
I asked about this bell, you guys.
yes,
When I sat down, I was like, what are we doing with this bell?
that's right.
Because I'm excited about this bell.
Well, you obviously watch a lot of these shows.
I know.
Listen, Molly doesn't have time to watch these shows
I
because she's
know.
doing deals. How many transactions are you messing around with right now?
Oh, gosh. So here's the thing. I have elevated even myself out of the transactions, but I bet my team of transaction
That's what
coordinators
I
is
mean.
working on
Yeah.
probably 40 to 50 transactions right now. Right now, as we speak.
Right.
hmm
And to be able to keep that organized, how do you do that?
That's been an evolution.
Yep.
That has been a process. Well, I want to go back to your question you asked the first time, though.
Yeah, because I'm going to jump all over
Yeah,
the place.
and this is great because I'm good with rabbit holes, and I'll bring you right back because
Okay.
that's how it is with pace, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring you right back to where we were. So creative
Traditional
versus
versus creative.
traditional.
Yep.
Yeah, you remember.
I
You
do.
remember. Yeah,
I
now
got
you're
it.
here. Back with me now. So I come from the traditional real estate space. I was a traditional realtor for years before I met Pace. I came into this world and I was like, what you're doing is sketchy. This is weird.
Yeah.
What? Like, and how many people in the comments have you ever met a realtor who's like, you want to purchase my house or my client's house doing what?
Mhm.
No, that doesn't exist. People don't do that. No way. They stonewall you. They don't answer you. They don't talk to you. Right.
Right.
That may have even been me before I met Pace.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the difference between creative and between traditional real estate is an open mind, in my opinion.
Okay.
So it's a matter of saying, how can I make this work versus it's only going to work this way.
Yeah.
And so coming from the traditional world, I really only knew one way.
Mm-hmm.
I really only knew the way that they teach you in real estate school. And so when you guys approach real estate agents, think of that. Think of who you're approaching. You're approaching somebody who's gone to, mind you, here in Arizona, you can get your real estate license in 9 days
Right.
for a few $100s.
Yep.
So now, no knock on agents. I'm an agent still. But at the same time, you're approaching somebody who's been told this is how you do it and you can't do it any other way. And this is exactly what it is. And if you do it any other way, you're going to get in trouble and don't do it.
Right.
Right. And so for me, jumping into this creative space, even just dancing on the line of like, hey, I'm hanging out with investors, wholesalers. Oh
Right.
my gosh, good God forbid wholesalers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, was very intimidating for me. I don't think I 100% realized what I was getting into. And so I think as a new investor getting into this industry, when you want to work leads on the MLS, you want to recognize that there are people who know about traditional real estate and there are people who know about creative real estate.
Right.
And they either have an open mind or they have a closed mind.
Are you lumping wholesale in with creative?
I do feel like sort of
Sorry?
that's the same group of
Yeah,
people,
sure.
right? They
Yeah.
all kind of mingle together for me because that's the world that I jumped into.
Yeah.
Was people in the creative real estate space, in the investment real estate space is what
Right.
I should say, right?
Yep.
They're there to make money, whether it's purchasing properties creatively, whether it's purchasing properties for 70 cents on the dollar and reselling them to somebody else, whatever it is, right? So for me, creative versus traditional is just a matter of opening your perspective on how to make a transaction happen, no
Mhm.
matter what the terms are, what
Yeah.
the scenario is, you know?
Well, I think if you really look at what is the difference between traditional and creative, it's the seller. It's the seller situation.
For sure.
It's what the seller wants, because when we're looking at a traditional, I mean, I've been licensed since 2004.
Yeah.
This is before you graduated high school.
Yes, we did just
Okay.
talk about that.
No, but I mean, like,
you were fresh out of high school.
yeah, well, I was fresh out of college actually. And yeah, that's,
I knew.
yeah.
Brent told me a lie before we got on here.
No, I graduated high school in 2000.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh,
And-
4
and
years.
college
Okay,
in
you went 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so the difference is, and it took me a long time to realize this, is not all sellers just want to put their home on the market for everybody to see.
Yeah.
Not all sellers trust real estate agents. Not all sellers have the time or the resources to be able to put their home on the market and get the most out of it because they don't have the investment to put into these properties.
Yeah.
So when we talk about people that are in that have personal problems with their property, or they're in an ugly situation, or it's an ugly house, this is a totally different mindset.
Yeah.
This is a totally different mindset than what a real estate agent, because we were taught, go in, make sure the house is looking good, smelling good, feeling good. And that's how you get the most. That's how you provide the most value for property owners, is by, educating them on what needs to happen to get the most for their property.
Yeah.
But then I realized that I went on an appointment, and my grandma had set this appointment for me, and I had gone through the whole listing presentation and had given some advice on things that need to be done to the house. And she said, yeah, that's not a problem. I have the money to be able to do that. And I said, we're going to put a lockbox on the house and be able to, for people to come in. She goes, no. Nobody can come into the house. I said, why? And she's like, well, my dog will bite him. My dog will not let anybody in the house. And I don't want to disturb my dog. This is my dog's house. And I was like, well, how can you sell your property if people can't see it? If you want to sell it sight unseen, you're going to have to sell it to an investor. And if you want that, I can offer you a price, but it's going to be like $50,000 or $60,000 lower. She goes, oh, that's fine.
Well, she didn't have to put the money into the house though then, right?
The money was maybe cleaning out some trash.
Oh.
And a room needed carpet. Right?
And you were the buyer.
50 to 60,000. Well, I said, here's what I could do to list it. Here's what I could do if you wanted me to buy it right now. And it was $60,000 lower. She says, yeah, that's fine. Just because of speed and convenience. They wanted speed and convenience.
Americans.
So the problem that we have is we are making choices for property owners before we let the property owners make choices for themselves.
Yeah.
That's why we need to go in and have conversations with the property owners and see how best can we serve them.
Yeah.
Is it a cash as is offer? Is it taking over their loan?
Mm-hmm.
Is it them being the bank on this property so that we could do something creatively? We need to be able to ask questions and have those conversations before we know what offers to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it all comes down to what's going on with the seller. Because if a seller wants full market value and they don't mind being inconvenienced by fixing up their house or cleaning up their house and having strangers walk through their house and strangers come in and take pictures of their house, which is every listing that happens, every traditional sale.
And not let the cat out and all that. How many times have you shown a listing and it's like, please don't let the cat out? And it's like, what, do I walk in and close the door really quickly and make sure the cat doesn't get out?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So really, guys, how can you best serve your marketplace? And that's why we have so many conversations around going after people, just driving around and finding people that their properties are vacant, or their properties were just inherited, or these properties are going through pre-foreclosure. These properties are you just look at them and you see that they need significant investment. There's so much opportunity. 6 to 10% of the real estate market is in distress at all times. That's upwards to 14 million properties a year.
So what's the secret though? How do you buy them then?
You have a conversation, you make an offer.
Oh,
that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
What?
Yeah. That's it. You have a conversation.
It's really hard
make
though
an offer.
when you're new. It really is hard. And you probably have to screw it up a couple times.
Of course.
At least 4.
But this is 2023.
Yep.
Everything that you could ever want to learn about this, not let alone if you just went to the podcast, Wholesale Hotline podcast, let alone Jamil Pace or myself and Jerry Norton's YouTube channel, you can learn absolutely everything. You can learn what to say. And I think everybody can agree that there are certain words and phrases that if you use when speaking with a property owner, they will say yes more often. Would you agree?
I would 100% agree.
So why not learn all those phrases and words? Why not test those out? Why not go out and take action? Why not go out there and find people that you can have that conversation with?
I think it's about energy too, you guys. I think we feel each other's energy, right? We're sitting here with each other. We can feel each other's energy. And when you meet somebody new, you can feel their energy. You can feel their intentions, right? So for me, it's like, when somebody's trying to be snaky or, weird or not think about you as their best interest. So my rule of thumb, and people who are my students that are in this recording right now, or I guess this live,
Yeah.
they would know that my number one saying is, as long as you keep the seller number one throughout the entire transaction, even after the transaction, sometimes, especially in a creative scenario,
Yeah.
you're always going to be in a good spot.
Yep.
You're always going to be in a good spot. And so Pace calls it finding the bunnies.
Mhm.
For me, it's just about making sure that throughout the entire transaction and the experience of us owning the property after the transaction,
Yeah.
the seller is kept number one.
Yep.
So, and that's why we do such good business. And that's why we continue to get these deals. And that's why if someone brings a deal to us and I get involved to help close the deal, or I get involved to help transaction coordinate the deal, I'm almost never having any issues, right? Like there's never any like pushback or somebody being like, okay, I've got cold feet. I don't want to sell your house anymore. Like that never ever happens. Yet I see it happen with new investors all the time. And I think it comes from those initial conversations and not really truly having your whole heart and your whole honesty into it about what your intentions are with it or whatever you're going to end up doing with it,
I think it's that. And I think it goes back to the point that you were talking about, which I love, which is it's scary in the beginning.
Yeah.
Absolutely is.
Yeah.
But growth is scary, right? Growth is hard. Change is hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can't just stay in this. If you have a goal of being a full-time real estate entrepreneur and going and being a solid real estate investor, you're going to have to stretch muscles you've never had to stretch before.
Who are you going to have to? Yeah, absolutely.
And most of it comes down to your ability to effectively communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's scary in the beginning, but if you squat up with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about being a fly on the wall of these conversations. I mean, you could find people that go live all the time making calls to sellers. You know what I mean? You could go and get into any one of the communities, whether it be Astro, whether it be Wholesaling Inc. with me and the Rhino Tribe, whether it be Sub 2. Every single one of us have live Zooms every single day, seeing other people have conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And
I think it takes having that first experience though, because you can listen to people all day long. You guys, you can listen to people talk to other people, but you have to go do the work. You have to go and try and call somebody. You have to go and have those conversations, and you'll figure out very quickly what you shouldn't say and what you should say and what works for you. Because ultimately, if you just mimic what Brent says, or you just mimicked what I said on a call, it's not going to sound genuine. It's not going to sound like it's you. And so I had to figure out what worked for me. You, I'm sure, had to figure out what worked for you.
Yeah.
And your needs and desires as a buyer or as whatever your role is in the transaction is different from person to person. So you have to figure that out for yourself too, a little bit,
Oh, 100%. So how do you figure it out?
You do it. You make a mess.
That's it.
You go out there and make a freaking mess. Do you know how many people I see coming to me like, I've made a mess and I need you to help me? He's probably in here. I have one student he's a mastermind student, and he came to me quite a few times, and he would get things all the way, like almost 90%, 95, 99% of the way there.
Yeah.
And then he'd be like, I need you to have these last conversations. And I'm like, well, you know that I'm going to have to tell them, hey, you don't talk to me after this. Even though I'm calling to close you right now, you don't talk to me. You're still going to talk to him.
Yeah.
And there's going to be these conversations, And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Be totally fine. And I'd get on the phone and they'd be done. They're ready to go. They just have some little minute questions that he probably could have called and asked me.
Mm-hmm.
But he was scared. He didn't want to pull the trigger, kiss the girl or whatever Pace always says. He didn't want to do those things. And it's like, you're fine.
You're getting on the phone to close out a deal?
I'm not as a transaction coordinator,
right.
But as my role within Sub 2,
yeah.
I've absolutely helped a couple of our mastermind students with those things. If someone's come to me and asked and I had the time on the table, of course, I'm always going to be helpful. That's how our groups are. That's how probably all of your people are within your community for sure.
Yep. And so give a for instance. So is it somebody's looking to finish out like a Sub 2?
Yeah. So all creative transactions.
They just don't know.
People have questions like, well, what happens if you default? And that's a very hard question for people to answer.
Yeah.
Right? That's a question that people get sweaty and there's, I don't know.
Yeah.
What happens if I default? And they don't know if they're going to give the right answer.
That happened to you.
Heck yeah, it would. It would be the best thing ever. Do you know what? We had a seller the other day. Pace doesn't get to hear any of these stories because he's not involved in any of the. But we had a seller the other day.
Any of the real work.
He's not involved in any of the minutia, any of the weeds, right? So we had a seller that our servicer, mind you guys, this is actually a really interesting thing about servicers, and you probably know. The servicer physically writes a check for you. So when you use a third-party servicer, they pull the money from your account on the first, they write a freaking check, and they mail it. Snail mail. So when there's a holiday on the 1st of the month or on the 4th of the month, and the weekend is on the 1st, like it was this month, guess what? That payment's late.
Yeah.
And so I'm hearing from our sellers, or I'm checking those mortgages. I'm not checking them, but someone on our team is, and they're reporting back to me like, hey, this payment hasn't been made. And so we call our sellers and let them know. Well, they're like, oh, well, I thought that if you might default, I might get that beautiful Airbnb back, because we remodeled the entire house. I mean, it's probably had $100,000 renovation. The guy's like, sure, default. Yeah. And so these sellers, although they have concerns, they don't see this aspect of it. They don't all have that view of it. And I know that you just talked about that a minute ago. It depends on where they are in their journey of selling their home.
Right.
What do they need?
Right.
And so we have sellers very eager. Absolutely. Sure. I could see how that could work. It makes sense to them in their head because they're real estate savvy or whatever it is, And then we have other sellers who just really, it feels very, very foreign and scary,
Yep. And there's right words to say, though.
There's right words to say.
And there's right ways to say it.
There absolutely is.
And if you learn them, you're going to be able to overcome a lot of those kind of sticking points that we go through. I mean, you talked about, well, you don't want to just listen to somebody and say what they say. I would disagree with you, Molly. I would 100% disagree with you. I would say, yes, you do want to know exactly the words. Absolutely.
I guess for me, it didn't work, right? So for me, it was like I listened, and it's because I screwed it up a couple of times trying to do that, right? So I listened. I would go on. We have daily dials.
Yeah.
And so I was on these daily dials within the Sub 2 group for a little while just to learn. I mean, obviously that wasn't my role, but I was just trying to get used to creative finance and understanding these things and understanding what people say and understanding how they talk to sellers or realtors or whoever it is. And then the first time we had a student that wanted to partner with us on a deal, they're like, well, can you talk to the seller? Because you're going to be one of the buyers. And I'm like, sure. Well, it got completely not only from what they had said to them, but then from what the seller started negotiating and I was wrong negotiating back. And then the numbers, it was really bad, So I screwed it up,
I get it. I'm just saying from a sales side, from a conversation side, when you ask somebody, catch me up to speed on what's going on with this property.
Absolutely.
Like Pace has said 1,000 times.
Absolutely.
Or when you go and ask somebody, what's your goal with this property? What's important to you about the buyer for your property?
Or what happens if you don't sell this property?
Yeah, sure.
That's a question I think is an important one.
What are you going to do with this property if you can't get this price?
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Tell me more about that.
Are you going to become a landlord?
You just told me that you have to sell this property, but you need this price. So I can get you that price, but it's going to have to be in payments, right? Like some of these things, when you're starting out, if you didn't know what to say, you would be like, fumbling and stumbling and rumbling.
Okay,
right?
I'll give you that.
It's
You're
the
right.
skeleton. It's the skeleton. You said it perfectly, though. It's the energy that you put out. It's the vibration that you put out that is so critical in those conversations. And I think we're saying the same thing. We're just saying it different. Learn the words and phrases, but bring the energy and heart of service to these, to people that are going through a tough time or want to get rid of a property for a specific reason, and you win.
Yeah. Everyone
absolutely win.
Everyone wins. For
That's
sure.
awesome.
Absolutely.
Guys, you're getting a lot of love in here. A lot of people love Molly. This is absolutely incredible. So Brent, keep it going. Yes. Boone asked, could you talk over how you have coordinated a transaction, Molly, like an example deal?
Yeah. So what I'll start with, guys, is I didn't know what a transaction coordinator was. I was in the traditional real estate world, and I don't know if you transaction coordinated your own deals as a traditional realtor or not. Okay. I did because that's my personality type, right? Control, right? I like control over all things. I want to know what's going on with everything. So I was doing all of my own TC work. I don't know if it was just my brokerage didn't have a TC and it just wasn't, and they didn't teach about it in real estate school. Yeah. It wasn't like a topic in real estate school. So I just thought this is what every realtor does. And so all of my transactions, I did all my own transaction coordination, and I wondered why I'd get 10 transactions at once and I'd be overwhelmed, you know, like, I have to talk to the buyers and the sellers, and I have to talk to the agent, and I have to do all the paperwork and talk to title and, all the things. I couldn't grow as a realtor, you guys, because I was being everything. I was doing all of the positions.
Yeah.
So when I came into Pace's world, I wasn't doing transaction coordination. I wasn't a transaction coordinator. I was hired for operations. And so one day he was like, hey, I have this deal in Texas and it hasn't closed. I don't know what's going on with it. Can you check on it? There was no transaction coordinator on staff at the moment. And so I was like, oh, you're buying a deal in Texas. Cool, whatever. Like, I'll look at it. Well, that deal had been in escrow for 2 or 3 months, just sitting, because it was Pace or probably a student that brought the deal and a seller and an escrow or title company that wasn't really moving, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize what I was doing as I was coming in as a transaction coordinator. I was coming in from an operations perspective to be like, what's going on? What's going on here? And then I'm like, where's your paperwork? Where's this? Where's that? And slowly but surely this monster came birthing out of this title company. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this contract is from December. It's March, you know, and like all of this stuff is wrong. It's not, the settlement statement doesn't match, and so I'm putting pieces together and I'm like, Pace, you can't buy this. You can't buy this,
Yeah.
And so I was really doing operations and transaction coordination at the same time. But what I realized is the value of a transaction coordinator at that very moment, right? A value of somebody to keep things moving along when you have busy sellers and busy buyers and a busy title and escrow company that's not even paying attention. They still have your freaking file.
Yeah.
And so really a transaction coordinator is the quarterback of your team that's going to get you guys, to the end. And so for me, it's like once that happened, a light bulb turned on and it was like, okay, how many other deals do you have? How much other stuff is going on like this? Mind you, I wasn't hired for any of this, right? And now it had to do with creative stuff that I was not familiar with at all. And it was scary and it was like extraordinarily complicated. All this extra paperwork, all this extra stuff. And I'm sure there's plenty of you sitting here right now that are like, all these extra authorizations and all these powers of attorney and what are all these documents? How am I supposed to know I have all the right documents, And so I'm like, I'm going to get all of this organized. And so I really dove into getting a system in place, coming from a background in operations, right? I got a system in place. We then hired somebody. We hired somebody else. We hired somebody else. And the next thing you know, I have a team of 5 transaction coordinators underneath me. And we're doing everything from, we have an in-house notary. We have, girls that specialize in joint venturing, private money lending, gator lending, all this stuff. I have a team of people to handle every single type of transaction. Yeah. And so that came from me just seeing a problem and saying, can we just fix it? Can I organize? It's like I saw a messy office and I'm like, can we just organize your messy office real quick?
Yeah.
And so as a transaction coordinator, really it's all about figuring out what's missing in the beginning. Right? So I have a purchase contract. Is it a creative contract? Do I need addendums along with that? Is everybody clear? Who's involved? Is there a wholesaler involved? Is there another assigner involved? Is there a realtor involved? What's everybody's relationship to this transaction? And how can I introduce them to title and create a blueprint for title and escrow to understand what that settlement statement is going to look like?
Yeah.
Yep. And so that's what a transaction coordinator does. That's how I work. My whole mind is thinking, how do I draw a blueprint plan for a closing agent, title, escrow, whoever it is? Yeah. And then we get to the end and it's never perfect, right? The settlement statement's never perfect.
Sure.
But we have an almost perfect settlement statement and everybody's happy and everybody's been communicated with all along the way,
And that allows you to do more.
Well, I told you when we got in here that Pace's portfolio grew by over 1,000 doors in the first year.
Right.
Some of that was syndication opportunities, but that was a very minimal amount of it. So that is a lot of work. That's a lot of work. And there was only 2 of us for majority of it, only me and one other TC. And now she's my lead TC on my team.
Yeah.
So it was a lot. It is a lot of work. It is.
It's incredible. I want to open this up to questions, guys. If you have any questions for Molly, make sure that you do that. Before we get into the first questions, which are exciting, I want to talk about an important guy in my life. His name is Jamal. And he is going through a tough time. And Jamal Parker, he is 28 years old. He's got a beautiful son. He's got a beautiful family. He was just doing amazing things in the wholesale world and the real estate investing world. And then cancer smacked him. Cancer got him. Cancer, a strange one. No history of cancer in his family. Just a really strange diagnosis. And so he's gone through tests and he's gone through treatments and he's done everything he can. Finally, he's found some treatment that looks very promising. And I just want to open up the opportunity for everybody to help him out, because he's incredible and he can get through this. But it's just really difficult to be a full-time real estate entrepreneur or any kind of entrepreneur when you're going through something that is so devastating from a health perspective. And I just want to give you guys the opportunity, because I'll match anything that you guys decide that you want to donate here. This goes to helping him get the treatment. And let me explain something to you about treatments and cancer treatments. My wife is an oncology nurse. She works for the Mayo Clinic, which means she treats people with chemotherapy. And it is not a cheap thing. It is not something that all the insurance companies want to cover. And so whatever little help that you can give would be huge to him, huge to his family, and huge to you. I mean, the fact is, and we don't have to go down the rabbit hole of tithing and giving, but you always open yourself up for receiving. You know, giving and receiving is cyclical. So the more that you give, the more that you actually receive. And that's why it's so prominent in the Bible. I mean, you could check that out on your own. We're not going to get into a religious conversation here, but I will tell you from a soul perspective, do something today for that. Do something for internally. Do something for your heart today. And I'm going to post a GoFundMe, a Cash App, and an Apple Pay here. And I would love for you to participate. If you've gotten any value out of Wholesale Hotline, if you've gotten any value out of being in our communities, please consider donating and giving a little bit more. It's absolutely incredible what happens when you give, and when you open it up to helping somebody out that really needs it during this time. And this is like a life and death thing, guys. You know what I mean? And so this isn't just some obscure charity that you don't know where the funds are going. This is going straight to treatments and you can read his whole story on GoFundMe. They do an excellent job of explaining that, and you can really see him and his family. But I don't ask a lot on this. I'm not very good at doing this. But this is coming from my heart. And I'd love for you to participate and give today, and just do something great for your soul and something great for the Parker family. All right. So make sure that you check out that link. Anything that you guys donate, I will match, and let's really push as hard as we can. Open it up and watch what happens in your life when you give, and when you give to something like this, because we're all going to go through something tough in life, and we'd love to have a community to support us. So Jamil Parker, there you go. I know that you're watching. I know that you're participating. If you'd like to post something in here, you certainly can. And or post a comment in here, you certainly can. And please, guys, reach out, put something in there, help him out, and let's support a really amazing family. And he's an incredible wholesaler, incredible business person, incredible entrepreneur. But you can't do anything if you're unhealthy. You know, it's one of those things where they say, you know, it's the last thing you think about until you get sick, and then it's the only thing that you think about. And so do something incredible for our community here, guys. Do something incredible for their family. Bless them. And Jamil, I love you. And we'll get through this.
We're going to help you get better.
Yep.
That's for sure. I'm sure Pace is making our donation right now as we speak. So Pace and I talked before we got here. So
Awesome.
Top Tier for sure is going to make a donation to that. And I'm sure all of you here are going to contribute to that. I know this community all too well, and you guys are the go-givers of all time. So absolutely, Jamil is in the best place ever to receive the help that he needs.
Awesome. So guys, go ahead. I'll make a mention of it at the end of the show, but get in there and give and do something great for your heart at the start of the week and watch what happens. Awesome. All right. Kirsten Martinez, Molly, how hectic is TCing? Seems like a lot to keep up with, but I like to be organized. What traits does a TC need? This is incredible.
This is a great question.
And I'm going to do a follow-up question to this question.
Okay.
But I don't want to get off base.
He's like jumping at the question already, guys. So being a TC is extremely hectic. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not for the faint of heart, but neither is real estate, guys. So any of you here that are sitting here doing real estate transactions and you're thinking, why am I just beating my head against the wall? Until you get it, going, you're really feeling like you're struggling, And so being a TC is the same way. In the beginning, you're going to feel like you're drowning, you're floundering around. I always tell people for the first 6 months of my time here with Pace, I just kind of existed and got myself involved in messes here and there. And one day it clicked, right? One day it all came together. And it was probably with that first transaction, right? Where I was like, okay, let's find the pieces of the puzzle. And that's the thing about transactions is it's like you can make all the pieces exist there. And I do have a transaction coordination course that we haven't talked about just yet that I can teach you how to be an ultimate TC, a creative TC. Right now. Okay. I was like, I don't know when we'll bring it up, but at some point we'll bring it up. Yeah. But I do have a top tier transaction coordination course that I am just sealing up. It actually releases this week. And I talk about everything from transaction coordinating cash transactions to creative transactions to extremely creative transactions that have only come out of the minds of people like you, So there's lots of nuances to it and there's lots to learn. But what I can tell you is that if you take things in steps and in the pieces that they're given to you within the course, you can easily expand and grow. And once again, the sky's the limit. So you as a transaction coordinator will really start to think more creatively. Yep. And now I can look at a deal, even if it's not my deal, even if I haven't negotiated, I don't even know the seller's bunnies. I don't know anything about the seller. And I can tell you.
Explain the bunnies real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just for.
So the bunnies.
I think a lot of people understand, but there's.
Yeah. So the bunnies come from a story that Pace told about one of his first transactions that he closed where the lady really just needed to get rid of a set of bunnies, right? She really just needed to find a home for these bunnies. And that was her reason for needing to get out of her house.
It's finding the problem.
Yeah.
What is the actual problem? Because a lot of people are going to put up their force fields.
It could not be a problem though. It could be like a desire or a thing that they want.
Motivation.
Motivation. Yeah, it's finding the motivation, right? Not every seller has a problem, right? Not every seller has a problem. But ultimately, I can look at transactions now and I can say, I feel like there's an extra element that you could use here. I feel like you're trying to say this in your additional terms and we could actually say this, or I feel like your seller's asking for this, but we could offer something like that. There's things that I'm thinking of, and maybe it's because I sat in an operations position with Pace for so long now, but at the same time, I teach that within my course and you'll have firsthand one-on-one attention from me within the course.
How can people find it?
So we do have a link. I think I've shared it with you guys. It is go.toptiertc.com/starttc. So it's a long one. I know that is, but we should have a link available for you guys. Otherwise, it is an extremely great opportunity for those of you that are trying to figure out where your space is in real estate. This is another thing that I think people don't talk about is that even if you're like, okay, I'm not super organized or I don't know if I'd make the best transaction coordinator. Well, you could get into transaction coordinating and do a few deals and figure out the back end of it and figure out how to make yourself more comfortable with the paperwork and the title process and talking to closing attorneys and talking to buyers and sellers from a non-buyer perspective, right? The less intimidating perspective. And all of a sudden you're like, maybe I am a private lender. Maybe I am a buyer. Mm-hmm. Maybe I do want to buy deals just like this one that I just saw. And so for me, it's like you could start out as a transaction coordinator and morph yourself into so much more than a transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
Or you could start out as an investor and decide you want to be a transaction coordinator, which I've seen happen the opposite way too. So at the end of the day, it is keeping up with a lot. Like Kirsten says, it is keeping up with a lot. It is, being organized. The traits of a transaction coordinator that I feel like are best are somebody that is maybe a little bit type A. I wouldn't say that I'm type A, but I like things to be organized the way I want them organized. And you can organize your business as a transaction coordinator however you want, right? That you could do it however you want, however you see fit. We use different platforms like Trello or Monday.com or other project management tools that you can change and customize to fit however your brain works.
Sure.
And then once you get, it's so satisfying. It's so like, and this is just me geeking out over it, I guess, but like, it's so satisfying to feel like at any, like it happened just now. I could actually show you a text message so like 5 minutes before we started here.
Yeah.
Somebody from Pace's team texts and they're like, can you send me the transaction docs, like all the executed docs from this transaction? And Pace goes, she's on Wholesale Hotline. Boom, I send it to him right there.
Yeah.
Do you know how satisfying that is? That makes me so excited that I could just go find that right there. I had a client, a traditional real estate client, text me the other day and go, I don't know where my septic system is at my house. And I'm like, okay, boop, boop, boop. Here it is, right here. Like that,
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like to make an investor who's not that type. How many investors have you come in contact with where you're like, where's your purchase contract? It's in the back of my car somewhere. Or like, they're just very visionary, like, I don't want to say chaotic, but a little bit chaotic all over the place, like busy doing stuff and not thinking about the details.
This goes into the comment that I say all the time. The dumbest real estate investors make the most money.
They just go do all the things. They do it all.
Right. But it only works if you have somebody organizing on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
It does. I mean, and listen, when you're just starting out and you're just doing a couple deals here and there, you can fumble and stumble and go. But to build an actual business, you need to have operations. You need to have systems in place to make it go smooth. And you need to find somebody that's absolutely incredible at organizing all those.
Yeah.
Somebody that has a big motor, which is the second part of this question that I had for you is, have you always had this big motor? Have you always been somebody that enjoys work?
Yeah. And so the reality is that it is sort of a personality type to get to the growth level that I'm at, right?
Sure.
But you could be a transaction coordinator that's just doing this as a side job. And so this is one of those things that like you could be in college and you could, close 1 or 2 transactions a month and you could make yourself an extra couple $1,000, $2,000 to $4,000 a month, maybe even more. So the reality is that the sky's the limit. You can make this what you want.
Yeah.
This is a choose your own adventure type game.
Love it.
Yeah. So for me, it's like you could be as successful as I am and be involved in someone's business and be in the operations and be owning additional businesses and joint venturing on partnerships and doing crazy things and being way crazy involved and super busy, right?
Yeah.
Or you could be, the person that's the stay-at-home mom and you have babies at home and you just want to supplement your husband or your wife's income, whatever it is,
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at it from my perspective and wanting to build a real big profitable business. You have to have one of you. You have to have somebody like
you have to have, and I feel like that's more of an integrator operational type role, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a.
You're saying, hey, listen, I'm going to show you how to just do transactions. You can stay in just doing transactions.
Yeah.
But if you want to go into a different role, that's more, because I think a lot of people are sitting there thinking of visionary and integrator.
Yeah.
Right. The owner and the operator.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think with a lot of that, now listen, there's plenty of people that are interested in just understanding how the transactions go to feel more comfortable, to be able to, not have to leverage that experience for their own business.
Exactly.
For sure. And that's what you're talking about with your training is you could go, hey, listen,
probably
you
a
could
minimal
do all
amount
of
people.
this.
Yeah.
You could you can learn how to coordinate all of these transactions, which, by the way, I highly suggest any of you out there that are already looking for an operator, any operator that you get has to go through this course. I mean, has to. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer, and I think it's something that our industry has needed for a very long time.
I think it's so true. I mean, in all reality, and that's not just within the Sub 2 group, right? Within any of the groups that you guys are, real estate groups or real estate meetups, anywhere you go, the transaction coordinators are there. But most of the time, they're not as vocal as probably I would be, right? They're the people that like the paperwork. They like the back end things. They're maybe the quieter person that's there. And they have an eye for detail, right? But they're not so amazing at putting themselves out there. And so that's a lot of the people that end up in my course, right? And so it's a lot of teaching people how to come out of their shell and show people who you really are and be a likable person so people want to use you. And so people don't just have to realize by doing a transaction with you how great you are, And so I think that there are people out there that are like me, but there's also a lot of people out there that could benefit from being a transaction coordinator because they just don't have any other role within this space, within the real estate space, you know?
Well, and I think that there's some wives out there that are absolutely going out there. They're finding all the deals, and they have a quiet husband. That you know, they want, and vice versa, and all of these things, or a best friend, or a you know, a business partner that maybe just doesn't want to, you know, go out on the appointments. They don't have that confidence. They don't have that personality to be able to drop them in any room, and they're going to be versatile and understand and pick out all the different personality types in the room right off the bat, but they know that they love this business and they love to participate. I mean, what a great course to go through to see, you know, if this is the fit for you. I think it's incredible because listen, all the courses are like, hey, this is how you go get deals. This is how you go get deals. This is how you go get deals. Great. What about the person that, you know what, I've already got somebody going to get deals and I want to be a part of it, but I don't want to go do what they're doing because that's too redundant. So let me do this other part.
And I have
this course.
I have a walkthrough
Top tier.
actually in the course where it's an investor. It's actually an actor, but he's got something in his hands and he's like, now what?
Right.
And so that's every new investor, right? You get your first contract. You did all the steps to get that first deal. You did all the things. Now what?
Yeah. No,
now
listen,
what do I do?
I started building my business. I remember as a real estate agent, I was petrified of filling out the purchase contract. I was petrified.
They don't really teach you that well in
seller
school.
Property disclosure statements and lead-based paint disclosures and the buyer beware disclosures and the HOA
market analysis.
All of these things. I was petrified. All I wanted to do was go and find people that wanted to buy and sell.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's all essentially what we do as wholesalers.
Yeah.
All we do as wholesalers is we find people that want to buy and sell, and we get into the middle of it. It's really exciting, but I set it up so that I got a transaction coordinator right away. I mean, because it was offered in the brokerage, but that was just kind of a normal thing.
It wasn't offered to me. And that's where I was like, is everybody just living this chaos life as a realtor? Like you're just all kind of out there doing all the things, literally.
Well, I see a lot of people that join like 100% commission places, or they join some of the ones that, you know, they have virtual offices and all these things, and you don't have a transaction coordinator. But anyway, it doesn't, just for this conversation, having somebody that was filling everything out, making sure it was organized. I think I was paying like $350 to $400 a file, a closing that came right out of the closing of the deal. And it freed me up of 10 hours a week, probably. I mean, maybe more a week. Probably more. I mean,
if you're doing it the right way too. Yeah.
But once I got more, I mean, so I'm just telling you guys, if you really want to go fast, you got to find somebody that's going to help you with your transaction. You're going to have to have somebody that's doing the gathering part of the business while you're out hunting. Because the more you hunt, the more opportunities you're going to find, and then you can have a transaction coordinator be able to get it across the finish line.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it really does. It helps you get them across the finish line, and that's exactly it, right?
But I think so. Shannon, she was phenomenal. She was my transaction coordinator. She loved solving issues in a deal.
Yes,
she hated having to call me to do something.
Yeah,
hated it. She's like, I'll handle it. I've got it all. I'm going to do everything.
My team doesn't tell me about anything anymore. Now I feel like Pace because now my team members don't tell me about anything.
Yeah. Hey, Molly, how much knowledge about Sub-2 and creative financing do TCs need to have before jumping into your upcoming TC training?
I'm sorry, guys. You just have to join Sub-2. No, I'm just kidding. No. Guys, why would I put a course out there for transaction coordinators? I just said from cash transactions all the way up to the most creative. What I've done is a magical thing. And this was a balancing act that I was like, okay, how do I not like be Sub-2?
Yeah.
Because ultimately you have to have some understanding of these things, right?
Sure.
But you don't have to be the negotiator. This is the beauty of being a transaction coordinator is you don't have to be the negotiator. You don't have to be the one that fills out any of the paperwork, right? That initial contract should be contracted by the person who's negotiating it. Yep. And honestly, the act of filling out that contract is a trigger for things that you negotiated with your seller as the negotiating party.
Yep.
And so for me is even if I give a contract consult as a transaction coordinator of like, this looks complete, or like, did you ask your seller about these things, whatever it is, it's a triggering event that helps people who are disorganized a little bit be a little bit more organized and make sure they remember the details.
Sure.
You know? So you don't have to have any real estate experience. You don't have to have sub 2 creative finance, any real estate experience at all to join the course.
I just as you're talking, I would say, okay, if I'm a person that is very organized, love what you're saying, love just, putting together the puzzles that is a real estate transaction. And I want to be really good at it, and I want to do a lot of them. I would get as loud as I can and offer my services to as many people as I can after going through the course. So you could literally go through the course and almost be certified in a sense of transaction coordination. And then you could make a fortune doing that.
Well, and you just mentioned it a little bit right there. So cash transactions on average are a few $100, $400 or $500. Now, if I'm going to do a cash transaction, I don't really care to do them. So I'm going to charge a little bit more because you're getting like expert level for me.
Yeah.
But, in traditional TCs, it's a few $100.
Yeah.
Creative TCs, our average transaction is $1,000 per transaction.
Sure.
And that's an average. And honestly, it's probably a low average because there is so many more elements to it. And there's so much more possibility for delays, for problems to solve, for things to happen throughout the transaction that really up the ante for a transaction coordinator. And so those of you who have been like, I've been a transaction coordinator, I know all about transaction coordination. I was a realtor, I was whatever. I know, I get this question all the time. I was in real estate. I know how to TC a deal. Do you now?
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Go do a wrap.
Okay.
Go do a wrap.
Here's the Morby method.
Go do a land
Do you know how to
contract.
do it? For me, it's laughable because it's like you can't even explain it
Yeah.
until it's brought to them and they would be like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
This isn't a real estate transaction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I would have thought the same thing. I would have thought the exact same thing as a traditional realtor years ago. I'd have been like, I'm not going to pay a TC $1,000.
Yeah.
Now I have people begging, clawing, scratching. Do you have time for my transaction? Whatever you charge, just push the button, pay it when you send them the invoice, you know? So
$1,000 is a drop in the bucket. I mean, especially, I don't keep creative deals. I sell creative deals. But $1,000 as part of in a creative transaction to wholesale that out to make 30, which is our average 30,000. I mean, what are we talking about here?
nothing.
And to make sure that it goes smooth so that I could keep my attention on finding other opportunities. Get out of here. Like, what is your time worth when it comes to the attention that you have going out there and finding great deals?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it changes your life. And I think it changed my life. It changed Pace's life. I think at the end of the day.
Oh, you definitely changed Pace's life.
Well, and see, I wasn't here before. So I don't know how things were before. I don't know how things were here before. I've heard this, but I don't know how things were.
Yeah. Listen, you took that business, which was a little baby boy running around in a candy store, picking out any kind of candy that they like.
He still tries.
And all these, I know.
He still tries.
But now it's a well-oiled machine. It's absolutely incredible. You know what I mean? And that's what transaction coordination really does for your business and operations. And I think in a sense, you've got a lot of visionary in you as well. I mean, I know that you guys own businesses and now you're going to be putting out top tier coordination course. Is that the
top
official?
tier TC? Yeah. Top tier transaction coordination.
Top tier TC. It's a no brainer. And the industry's been, it's been lost without it, to be honest. It's going to be absolutely incredible. It's going to help out our industry. And I think from a wholesaler standpoint, I mean, don't think that this is just for creative deals, guys, because what this does is you're going to have somebody that's going to keep you really, really, really compliant with what's going on in your state, what's going on with the title companies, your closing attorneys, everything. I'm telling you, having somebody that takes that part of the process over is going to instantly increase your business. So if maybe if you're a husband and wife and somebody has this role and somebody needs to make sure that the deal gets across the finish line and you feel like you're kind of constrained because it's just cash deals or it's just creative deals or it's, you you're not able to open up the full toolbox of opportunities to solve the motivation of a property owner, then this is it. This is it. Top tier TC course. Make sure you check it out. I'm sure that there's a link in there. Carly, did you put a link in there, or do you want us to? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down or whatever. Carly does.
I can text it to
All
Carly.
right, we'll get it. We'll get it. Awesome. Shaka says, hi, I'm new to real estate investing and years in insurance, and I want to leverage my experience and skills. Awesome. What is the best way to start out as a transaction coordinator and leverage the skills I already have?
Well, that's an extremely good set of insurance is complicated. So
yeah,
if you were writing insurance policies, you're going to be a great transaction coordinator. So
you've been in the heat.
Yeah, you've been in the heat. So I definitely feel like you have the right skills. Once again, it doesn't take any real estate experience. Yes, you have a one-up if you start out with real estate experience, but I really have done what I feel like is a great job starting out from the very basics to the more complicated things and teaching you the steps to take along the way to get yourself ready to take on the more creative transactions. And so if you have experience in organizing, project management, filling out paperwork like you've been doing for insurance all these years, you're going to make a great transaction coordinator. And joining the course would be the best course of action for me, to be honest with you. That's what I would have to say.
100%.
Yeah.
Jose, just locked up 1 duplex and 2 land deals this month in the Twin Cities. That's a nice market, guys. That is a really nice market. Good profits in that market. Come on.
That's so much louder than I thought it was going to be.
Yes. Congratulations, Jose. Keep the momentum. Stay focused. Listen, get those deals sold. It's great locking up deals. It's better closing deals, right? It's better getting paid. It's better getting them through the finish line. I'm sure that you will. Congratulations, and keep the momentum. Now, don't stop once you get those big checks coming in, okay, Jose? It's just the beginning. Put them away. Start every day at 0. 0 deals, 0 money in your bank, 0 opportunities, 0 deals pending. Build until you can start firing yourself from certain roles in the business, and then you can really build something special. Awesome. Our man, Joel. How much do we pay a TC usually if we are doing it from 0? How much of our deal should we give to them if it's their first deal?
So you're doing it from 0 as in you're making no money?
No, like they haven't closed a deal before. Like this is their first deal.
Oh, okay. Well, it depends on what type of transaction.
Should you split the deal with them, or should it just be?
Yeah, I mean, you ultimately could. So in all reality, there's going to be people that take this transaction coordination course that are already professionals in the real estate industry, right? They already are in sub 2. They have previous experience doing wholesaling, whatever it is underneath their belt. And so you could 100% joint venture with them, maybe joint venture with them and give them a little bit more of the deal because they're also doing all of the paperwork and then coordinating it with the title and escrow company. So at that point, I would say it's absolutely feasible that you could joint venture on that type of deal. And they should know how to do those. If they're a transaction coordinator, they should understand how joint venture deals work. Or really, that's kind of a range, right? So if a cash transaction on average of a few $100s, I would say $400 to $600 for a cash or traditionally financed transaction, up to honestly like $3,000 if we get super crazy complicated and there's all these extra aspects and after closing and servicing and all these things that we do. As transaction coordinators, I mean, really, there's so much here that people don't even realize someone can help with. And the more complicated transaction gets, the more complicated the transaction coordination process is.
Love it.
Yeah.
So we've got another victory here. Alan, local, lives here in Phoenix. He is incredible young man going out there doing amazing things. We just closed one of our biggest assignments last month and locked up 2 more this month.
See that rolling?
Yep.
He's getting it rolling.
He's building the momentum.
1 and then 2 the next month. That's how it happens.
Listen, when the wind is behind your back, you go fast. You know what I mean? Like it is, you build that momentum. Keep the lead generation machine going, and it goes like this. But Alan and them have done a great job. Do you want to ring it this time so that it's not as aggressive?
So hold
it up there.
Thing.
And then
it's supposed to go on a wall, guys.
Yep.
And then I did it.
There you go. There you go, guys. Give her some love in the comments section. Let her know. Let us know in a poll. Who rings it better? Me or Molly?
Brent. It's Brent for sure. He's ringing a lot more than I have.
I do have a bit of experience here. This is a great question here. Curtsy, I've got 2 houses on one parcel. I'm curious how you would go about wholesaling this. Should I split them up or keep them together? Keep them together. Keep them together. Like, just make sure. Here's the thing. If there's 2 houses on one parcel, just make sure that you're running your numbers and it's not equal to 2 houses side by side. Okay. It's not like, oh, every house in this neighborhood sells at 300,000 because they share a lot. Mm-hmm. And because they share a lot, it's just less desirable. And you're looking more at like a multifamily type of buyer or a buy and hold. Maybe it's somebody that just wants to buy and put their in-laws or their relatives in the back house. But typically the second house doesn't get as much as the main house. It could be 20% less. It could be 50% less. Just depends on what's going on in that property. And but I would just look at them as one lot and sell it as one lot.
And I have an example of that actually, if you want. Pace last year bought a property in Phoenix that had 2 almost the exact same size houses on the same lot. Mm-hmm. And like you said, if you rented them both out, it still wouldn't quite make what the payment was going to be to buy both the houses for what the seller wanted. It really didn't make any sense. This. And so we were like, what are we going to do with these? Like, the payment doesn't make any sense that they want for what we could rent it for. And we ended up finding a sober living home mm-hmm. that doubled what we could get for traditional rent in those houses. And the best part about having the sober living home in there is that they sign a long-term lease. Mm-hmm. And I say, you take care of all your responsibilities. There's no property manager attached to it. If the refrigerator goes out, you replace it. If you put a hole in the wall, you fix it. If a toilet breaks, you fix it. I mean, they'd probably contact us if like the roof fell off or like mm-hmm. the air conditioning went out or something. But still, it's actually a much less needy tenant. Mm-hmm. And we got significantly more. So that might be the buyer that you're looking for, is somebody that's going to buy and hold it and potentially use it as sober living, assisted living, something like that. If you could do something like that. Love it.
And that goes down. I mean, talking about wholesale and finding those deals and assigning those to your buyer, the amount of buyers that you're working with matters. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know that like some people just want to have 10 or 20 really solid buyers, and that's great. But sometimes you miss out on these unique opportunities because you don't have that sober living buyer there that has a different strategy. So you got to constantly be adding to your cash buyer database, and it's fairly easy to do so. It's pretty easy to find out. We like this buyer sonar. I don't know. I think it's maybe a few grand a year. So make sure that you have the budget for it. But buyer sonar through Audantic does a phenomenal job of grabbing all the cash buyers in your marketplace and ranking them based on who's buying at what percentage. And you can get a good idea of the different strategies, and you can just pull them. You can get their mailing address. You can skip trace them, and then you can have a conversation, or go to opencorporates.com, find out who the managing member is, see what their mailing address is, because a lot of these properties are owned in LLCs and in corporations, and find out who's the decision maker there and add them to your list so that you can sell more deals. Because you could sell, I'm telling you, you could sell a property from a wholesale standpoint to somebody that's going to be putting in a sober living or has a sober, is it a license you have to have? What is it?
Sober living is one of those interesting things that you have to be you can't have a whole bunch of them in one area. Right. So there is some licensing, but it's not like assisted living where like you'd have to put like the fire systems in and things like that.
But do you have to have like a license to run a sober living business?
I'm sure he has some kind of licensing, but that house isn't licensed. So the difference between assisted living with like the elderly and assisted living with like a sober living is the house has to be licensed and certified, right? Whereas in sober living or transitional living, maybe there's people who are doing foster care, things like that. Sure. People transitioning out of foster care is what I mean. Those types of housing situations don't necessarily have to be licensed the same way.
Yeah, got it. Guys, I'm going to mention one more time, Jamal Parker. I'm going to put the GoFundMe link up, guys, right here. Support Jamal. He is going through a really difficult time, diagnosed with a rare cancer. And guys, I'm just telling you, the more that you give, the more that you receive. Go out there, support this incredible family. Jamal was out there going on appointments, calling up property owners, responding to text messages, getting deals, and then all of a sudden, boom, the rug gets pulled out for you. Imagine if that happened to you. Imagine if it happened to a family member. Well, it should. You've got a family member here in this community that's going through this. So support. Give some support right now. Go in there and make sure you go. There's 3 different ways to be able to help him out, help his family out. This isn't some, we're going to go and send this somewhere where it's a black hole and only 8% or 10% or 15% or whatever the number is that actually goes to charities, actually goes to helping. This is 100% to an incredible family. And make sure that you guys check out his story, read his story. If you feel it in your heart to donate, make sure that you do. Jamal is incredible. His son is beautiful and has energy and has so much excitement. So let's keep his dad around for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. Anything will help. And with these things, it's just tricky. Treatment is tricky. Going to different doctors is tricky. Finding the right way to solve this problem is really tricky. And he thinks he's got a really good shot with a specific treatment, and needs some help getting there, needs some help supporting the family during this time. And it's just, it goes to an incredible cause. So make sure that you guys, whatever it is, if it's $1, it's $1. It'll feel good to your soul. Just do it. And I'll match it. Anything that's put in today, I will match it. And we want to support our own. So there you go. And I love you guys. Thank you.
And we love Jamal.
Yeah. We're not talking about Jamil, guys. Jamil is on vacation.
Jamal.
All right. Jamal Parker. All of his information is in the. Did you post it again, Matt?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. There's a link there, guys. Make sure that you click on that and get into. Is it posting to everywhere? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Get in there, guys.
We have magic people in the back that give us all the answers to everything.
That's right.
Just so you know.
That's right. That's us. All right. Let's keep going with this. Edwin has a question. Edwin, hey Brent, you're the best. Oh, thank you. You're the best. Wow, I feel great. I really do. If a homeowner answers the call but hangs up after you mention, yeah, it is Jamal. Wait, what just happened there, Matt? Okay. Oh boy. If a homeowner answers the call but hangs up after you mention the property address, do you consider that a contact? Sure. I mean, listen, hit them up again. Hit them up again and see if you can get a hold of. Oh, we got disconnected. Whatever. You know what I mean?
I knew you were gonna say it. I think we got disconnected.
Yeah, try it again. I mean, be relentless with your pursuit to help people. Awesome. And that brings me up a point. And this is a conversation that I had. We have a mastermind in Wholesaling Inc. called the Rhino Roundtable, and it's on that board right there. What is your potential for service? What is your potential for service? How much service can you provide in your lifetime? Mm-hmm. Seriously. You ever think about that? Because our income is determined by the amount of value we provide, right?
100%. I really believe that.
And not only that, but even like I was thinking, well, that doesn't work for investments. That's just for earned income. And then I think, well, wait, if you're investing into something, then you're providing something, right? Whether it's the stock market, whether it's crypto, whether it's buying a house or an apartment or whatever else, you're providing something and you're getting a return for that service. Yeah. So what is your potential for service? Do you guys feel it? I feel like all entrepreneurs. Don't you feel that?
Oh,
like entrepreneurs, you're like, I want to challenge this thing. I want to know what at the end of my days, at the end of my days, how much did I serve everybody else, all of God's children? You know what I mean? Like what is the amount? Because that's the amount of income that you provide. Yeah. It's absolutely incredible to think of it like that. You know what I mean?
And it's so rewarding. Like you said, at the same time, whether it's in real estate, I think a lot of people think of real estate investing as an industry where you're not helping people, where you're helping yourself, you know. And I think as a traditional realtor, that's where I came from my original perspective. And I've found nothing but the opposite here. And I think if more people dug into this industry and the people that exist within it, they would find a lot more love and caring than they think exists here.
Mm-hmm.
And the sellers that I have would say the same thing,
For
right?
sure.
My sellers, maybe your sellers too, they would say, I love Brent. I love Molly and Pace. I love them so much. I had such a really cool text message exchange with one of our sellers the other day over a late payment because of servicing, right?
Yep.
And he was like, I know it's not you. He was so freaking nice about it. So nice about it. I know it's not you. And I was like, it's the darn servicer. And then we had all these memes that we were throwing back and forth about the darn servicer, you know? And so it's those relationships that keep entrepreneurs like us going.
Yes.
It's those relationships that then drive other people to bring deals to you. You have sellers that then recommend you to other sellers. You have people that see you do good things and they want to do good things because they see you do good things. And so I've seen nothing but an extraordinary amount of that within the sub 2 mentorship, within the people that I meet within this industry. And it's the complete opposite of what I thought it was going to be when I got here.
Yeah. Well, listen, you know, this is a business that you can get into with just grit. You know what I mean? This
100%.
is something that you can get into. You don't have to have a family history, a legacy of it, right? You just, and most of the time, a lot of people get in from reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you realize that it's the cheat code, right? It's the cheat code for having an unbelievable professional life, at least, and really knowing where to focus your efforts at. And so it's a business that if you take it, if it will work if you do. You know what I mean?
It works as hard as you do.
Exactly. But then it also that bleeds into people wanting to, you become a magnet for people wanting to work with you. Right? You know what I mean? And when you're doing fun, exciting things and you're really putting in the work and you're really putting in the, that's why people love working with Pace, right?
Yeah.
Because who's going to outwork that guy?
No
You know
one.
what I mean?
No one.
You
I just
know?
had that conversation with him. He's so overly great. This is another thing, is that I'm able to bring what he brings to me as a partner, as, you know, the visionary for the company that I was the operator for. And so he brings so much gratitude and so much kindness to me. And like anytime I've ever had a scenario where I felt like this is going to be it, this is where he's going to like be mad.
Yeah.
You know, never, ever, never once, ever, never. And that's not just who you see on these podcasts. That's not just who you see on YouTube and Instagram. Like that's really who he is. And then my team can reiterate that because my team, it trickles down. And so that same concept doesn't just go within companies, it goes within life, right? It goes within the world, right? If you're putting kindness and caring and grateful attitude out there into the world, it trickles down to every piece, every facet of your life.
Well, and that's why, you know, you talk about, it's the saying of you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with, right? You see people that have the potential of $1 billion of service. You don't get to $1 billion. Listen, the who's the dude that created Amazon? Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Right? He's got all these billions. Yeah, because we all use the service. You know what I mean?
That's such a great way to put it.
I mean, we all use it. It's changed the world. Why, you know, the Elon Musk, all these people, you know, people in our own industry that have net worths of 20 million, 40 million, $100 million. Guess what? That's the amount of service they have provided. It's not scams. No. In this country, you will get thrown in jail and everything taken from you if you scam too hard like that. There's no scams that are going to get past it because the government's has way more resources than anybody scamming.
Don't you love those people on YouTube though that are like, scam? Yeah, this is a scam, and it's like, well, you obviously don't know the human being in this video.
Well, sure. Well, that's just people's knee-jerk reaction because they're scared of going out and actually providing service. Yeah, and they see people out there doing it and they feel bad for themselves, so that they have to put something out into the world that's negative, right? And Jamil says it perfect. Hurt people.
Absolutely.
Right? It's the absolute fact. And I wish nobody was in that position. And I've seen so many, I've seen people, Molly, that have been the naysayers and have been the phony and fake and scam and really just kind of protecting themselves from being influenced by people, get into this business, actually try it out a little bit. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I thought this was a scam. I thought it was right? And then all of a sudden you realize it's not. It's just a different way to serve
It's a different dimension.
It is.
It's a different dimension.
It is.
Really. There are people that exist on the normal wavelength. And then there are people that exist on the wavelength that we exist on. And I'm telling you, it's two completely different dimensions.
It is. So that's why it's like, I boil it down to conversations and offers because it's action, right? It's action. It's going out there and being in a place where you can screw it all up, but you're doing it to be of service to the people in your community that are looking for these opportunities. Is it everybody? No. Is it 90%? Probably not. Is it 94% don't want your service? Probably, but 6% do. So how many conversations and how many offers do you have to make to find those people? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And then once you have it, don't let them wiggle off the hook by you not knowing how to coordinate the transaction. You not like losing the confidence in the relationship because you don't know what's going to happen next with the transaction. That's why transaction coordination is the second part of this whole business. You have to be able to convert it. You have to be able to convert this to a closing. You have to be able to convert this to whatever the exit strategy is with this property, whether you assign it, whether you flip it, or whether you hold on to it. But if you're feeling nervous about it, go through this course, top tier TC course.
And we've got the link now.
It's in the link. I mean, you've got the link here. I'm going to put it back up. Guys, again, go into this link here. If you're watching this after, if you're here now, go check out Jamal Parker's story and make sure that you participate in it because it's going to be an incredible. You're going to feel so incredible when he goes through this, comes out the other side to know that you've helped in some small way somebody to help keep their life and their livelihood during this time. It's absolutely, I mean, come on. There's not a better cause. It's absolutely incredible. And so make sure that you guys go to the GoFundMe. And then if you're interested in here, Molly's TC mentorship is right there. Copy and paste. Super easy. Right there. It's in the comments section again. So you can just copy and paste, go right to it. And when is it available?
This Wednesday is our launch.
Ooh. Is there like a pre-launch thing?
So I think we are doing a special thing just for sub 2 members. But then there'll be a launch right afterwards for open to anyone and everyone. Anyone, no real estate experience required.
Awesome. Absolutely. So there you go, guys. Check that out. And just think about it. What is your potential for service? How are you constantly improving? How are you constantly growing? What are you putting, what books are you reading to be better? What people are you being around to be better? Is your life filled with entertainment or is it filled with growth? Is it filled with instruction? Is it filled with education? Is it filled with your mind getting stronger and better and more confident? It's really, what do you do for it? What do you do for confidence? Or are you just working so hard, so fast that is your like foundation that you build so that you don't have crazy days, so that you don't feel insecure, so that you don't feel, so that you know that you can go out there and conquer whatever goals you have. What do you do for that?
Number one, and this is going to sound so corny, I have to work out. I have to stay active. And that
100%.
Literally will pump you. 100%. I wake up 4:30 in the morning and go to the gym at 5. And it's like, by the time I'm done with that, I'm like, all right, I could do anything today. And even when those thoughts sneak in of like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do right now. And how can you get all of it done? And how can you do all these things, right? It's like, let's just take it first step. What's the first meeting? What's the first task on the list today? What are we going to start with, right? And then that energy builds, I feel like, from the people you interact with. So if you don't do that step, if you don't do that step of going and making those calls, of going and talking to those people, of going to that networking event, of going and doing any of the things, you're never going to build the energy that you need to keep going. And you're never going to feel that confidence that you get from other people boosting you up, whether it's fake because we're all trying to like figure out how we're going to make it in this world. Right.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it turns real because you're like, okay, we actually are badasses. Like we can actually make this work, you know? So for me, it's like, that's what gets me through the day. It's like, I start out my own routine in the morning. And then once I get in with my team and my team's like, hey, I had this scenario, whether it's a tough scenario or not, whether it's a tough conversation we have to have or not, I can always turn those conversations around. I can always turn something into a positive. And once we have that aha moment, and once we have that thing that happens, that clicks and we're like, this is how we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
Boost right there. Instant confident booster, right? Instant going to give me energy to glide me through the rest of my day,
Love
you
it.
know?
And that's how you keep your positivity.
Yeah.
And your optimism.
Yeah.
Awesome. Starts with exercise.
It does. It starts with exercise.
Every day?
Every day.
What about sleep?
I definitely get enough sleep. I do get enough sleep. I would say I need at minimum 5 or 6 hours. I probably should get 8 hours, but I probably get minimum 5 or 6 hours.
So you get up at 4:30. What time do you go to bed?
I probably get into bed
Yeah.
around 9:30 or 10.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then you're up at 4:30.
Up at 4:30.
Ready to rock.
Ready to go.
Every day.
Every day.
What about the weekends?
Sometimes on the weekends too. I have a whole farm, Brent. I have 12 animals at home too.
What?
I have horses and dogs, and I have a bearded dragon, and my daughter is a hamster and fish.
How many kids?
2.
2 kids.
And 2 kids.
And 12 animals.
And 12 animals. And a wonderful husband.
And an incredible husband. What's his
Yes.
name? Let's give him a shout
Matthew.
out. Matthew, what's up? Shout out. And how many businesses?
So we own an automotive glass business right
Yep.
now. And then I have top tier TC with Pace.
Mhm.
And then we're looking, if anybody has one for sale, actually, I should throw this out here.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for another auto body shop here in the East Valley in Arizona.
Awesome.
So we've been kind of putting feelers out and talking to people and doing things, but we came from the automotive industry before this.
Yeah. And you have a big lot that you keep all these.
Yeah. So I have an 1.5 acres in Gilbert, grandfathered rights, water rights, real close to downtown Gilbert. Perfect area.
Could you ever live on a small lot?
Never again. I mean, I've lived on those little sticky note lots. You probably live on a bigger lot now too, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You can't. Like I don't want to see my neighbor through their window of their house.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No way.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Molly, thanks for being on here. Guys,
Thanks for having me.
check it out. The link is right there. Molly's TC Mentorship. Go ahead and check that out. I am telling you, it's about time. It's about time that this industry has this level of quality when it comes to coordinating our transactions. Yeah. And I would never get stuck in the weeds with paperwork and transactions. I would always hire someone. I did since day one. I mean,
it's worth it.
It was 100% worth it. I remember doing it for the first time, and then somebody goes, well, why don't you just use Shannon? And I was like, what is a Shannon? They're like, oh,
what is a Shannon?
That's a transaction coordinator. And I was like, what? And then we did, I don't know, 1,000 deals. I mean, absolutely incredible. Changed my life. So guys, definitely make sure that you have an incredible transaction coordinator in your life. Or how about this? Be one for somebody. Be somebody's incredible transaction coordinator. It's getting launched this Wednesday, guys. Make sure that you put it in. And if you've got a successful team already, make sure that you implement it. It's an investment I'm sure will pay dividends well over what the cost is. So make sure that you check that out. And again, guys, help out Jamal Parker. He starts treatment at the end of this month. And we send up some prayers and check out his GoFundMe. And if it hits your heart, donate. And I'll match it. Awesome. That's it, guys. That's it for Wholesale Hotline. We love you. We encourage you. Go out there and talk to people and have conversations and make offers. We'll see you next week. Love you.
Or just say squat up.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
I didn't say nothing.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Cool. I think we should use the one where Jamil doesn't say anything.